What's up, studs and studettes? As always, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do. I appreciate all the shares. And I don't have a lot of studettes on the show. I'm working to try to get more. And today is going to be a very interesting episode. So, this person is one of the most outrageously energized human beings I've ever met. She's somebody I met through Apex. She's in the executive, also an executive coach. She was one of the hosts of the $1 Million Mastermind. Jessica Stroud, thank you so much for being here.
I did notice that you said dudettes, and I was like, oh, yes, we got some ladies.
Oh, studettes are for real. They're definitely.
Oh, I said dudettes, studettes. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I don't expect people to actually listen to the
I
podcast.
was, I was all excited about hers pronouns.
Very early on, we started with the studette movement, and it caught some waves pretty quickly.
Yep. Okay.
I don't think a lot of entrepreneurial, specifically male-driven entrepreneurial podcasts wrap in a female audience very well. So I wanted to be different, and pretty much since like maybe episode 3 or 4, and you'll be episode like 103 or 4 or something like that. And from that perspective, there's always been a studette movement, and I've always appreciated them.
Well, I'm happy to be here for the fellas and the ladies.
Well, I appreciate you. Obviously, you have a very interesting story, and for anybody who doesn't know Jessica, she is known as like the referral queen. She has an entire program around attracting the right types of people to bring the right types of customers to her industry and her business. But I also want to point out right now, and many of you may already know this, but Jessica is also on the board for a Champion Shoes, and I'm very grateful and appreciative of that. And I cannot wait for her to continue to implement her referral genius into my organization so that we can continue to grow that mission as well. But Jessica, give everybody a little background on yourself.
Hey, so I'm Jessica Stroud. I live in the middle of nowhere, also known as Kansas City. I am married. I have 2 kids. We own a couple of different businesses. We are adventurous. We like to travel. And Mike and I are both a part of the Apex Executives program that he mentioned. So we've known each other for a couple of years. And it's so interesting, the different levels that you and I have gone through, and where we started and we first met, and then we go here and we just keep leveling up. And when you came to me to talk about a Champion Shoes, clearly that was a no-brainer, because I also wrote a book called The Ladies CEO, which was a #1 bestseller, which is fabulous. But I almost named the book Searching for Shoes That Fit. Right? Because so many other kids, my story was that we didn't get new shoes. And if we did, they didn't necessarily fit. And so you're like, hey, I remember when you first sent it to me and you're like, hey, here's this deal I'm working on. And I jumped in and I made a donation to buy some shoes. And you're like, okay, that's not what I was expecting. And I was like, no, I love shoes, this and that. So it's absolutely up my alley. I'm excited to see where that goes. I think that's going to be incredible.
It'll definitely
love your heart.
It'll definitely be my biggest company. Like, it's going to be a really big organization once we start catching some momentum.
One of the companies that my husband and I own is an insurance agency in Kansas City. And what Mike is alluding to, my friends do refer to me as the referral queen, which is kind of funny, but I guess it's true. But I shared with Mike my story about how I generate all these referrals, and like most entrepreneurs, we think that that's just our thing, right? Oh, I'm just
give a number. Give the people context, like, because you don't just get some referrals. How many referrals have you gotten?
Okay, what time period? Still feels a little weird to say it. So over the last 5 years, I have personally received over 3,200 referrals.
3,200 referrals in 5 years.
So
everybody knows referrals are the highest potential to close.
So it's almost like I'm uncomfortable talking about it because I'm like, oh, it's just me playing on Facebook. And you're like, the hell it is. You got a system there. And I'm like, okay, I got a system. I got to figure it out. Right. So the first year that I was in our business and I was generating referrals, I ended with, it was like 300, right around 350, a little over, a little under. And even this far into it, right, we're into the 6th year now, we're still averaging, I'm still personally averaging over 500 referrals a year. And so while it's fun to say, oh, in 2020, I received over 700 referrals, what I'm most proud of is the consistency, right? Because we've all been there, we've seen it, maybe we've experienced it ourselves, but we have this passion and we have this thing we want to do, and we get into a new business or we open a new business and we kill it the first year and then we fizzle out. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that had been my story a few times in my life. I'm almost 43 now, so had a couple of different careers, but that had been my story. And so honestly, when I look back on it, it's the consistency that I'm so proud of, because it's not just something I've done once. It's not something I did twice. It's something that because of my system, I do it again and again and again. But the first year, right, when I was just floundering and figuring things out, I had a full-time job. Like I couldn't just, like, I wanted to jump into insurance as the business. When we specifically talk about the referrals, we're talking about insurance referrals, like not even really cool, interesting stuff, just like auto and home insurance, right? So the first year when I was able to generate over 300 referrals, I had a full-time pharmaceutical sales job. So for anyone who is listening to this and they're like, yeah, I was a drug dealer, that's fine. It's fun. You can say it. But for anyone who is like, oh, well, I can't do that because I have a full-time job. Hello, I had a full-time job, and I don't know if anybody knows anything about pharmaceutical sales, but you have to log your calls, right? They follow your time because you have this iPad you're logging everything into. And I have pharmaceutical sales partners that I work with that, kept an eye on me. So I couldn't slack off too much. And then I have a family, right? I have 2 sons, and then I'm a wife. I've been happily married for over 17 years. So if anybody is thinking, oh, well, I can't do that because, stop that right now. That does not get to be your story.
It's like the most mom statement I've heard on this podcast yet. You all just got in trouble by Miss
You got
Jessica.
the finger snap. Stop it with your negative self-talk.
So, but I want to point out though, yeah, you're great at getting referrals, but I think and maybe even you devalue a little bit, is your ability to consistently service those referrals is why you keep getting them. Because I think why people start to fizzle out is they go out, they get the referrals, they don't have their systems and processes and structure and consistency built out. Right. So that now they can't perform the right way. So now that people stop referring them because of the inconsistency in the service. So I think it's not just your ability to go out and find people who are interested in doing business with you, but like clearly you did a good job servicing those people when they did find you.
So I did a good job of servicing. So here's a story that you'll love. So in the first year, right, over 300 referrals, ended up quitting my pharmaceutical sales job. Thank goodness. Right, here's the real story. I want to just blow out of there and be like, I'm done. And my husband was like, no, we're a 2-income family. You have a really good salary. You have a company car. We have medical benefits through your company. You are not quitting your job. And I'm like, blasted. So I didn't have the luxury of going slow, right? I think sometimes when people think, oh, I'm going to start this thing on the side, you give yourself the luxury of going slow. And for me, I didn't have that because I was on a burning hot mission to replace my income so that I could quit my job. So I was finally able to do that in September of that year. Now, as awesome as it was, over 300 referrals the first year, the second year, we got over 600 referrals. Now, if you've not ever been in a place where you basically double your business in 1 year,
That's a lot.
it is a lot. It was a ton. And there was a point where I sat back and I looked around and I went, I have built my prison around me brick by brick. So I absolutely had to figure out, it wasn't an option. Like, I love when people go, well, I really want to hire an assistant, but I can't. Okay, so clearly you don't like giving good customer service. Clearly you don't like growing your business. Clearly you don't like spending time with your family or having a life, because all you want to do is work all the time. Listen, if that's your deal, okay, just own it. But most of us, that's not our deal. So I had to learn how to hire people, right? So I hired an assistant. Well, I screwed it up the first time, hired another one, screwed it up the second time, hired another one. Okay, well, I got it right the third time, and that person is still with us many years later. But I had to keep messing up until I figured it out. And just like you said, I had to scale, or I was not going to be able to sustain the growth, and I was going to burn and I was going to fizzle out. It wasn't going to be an option.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
So it's been really cool to watch you, I think, own like that. This is just who you are and the story behind it. And you turned it into a program and you've turned it into a lifestyle. But I want to kind of go back a little bit further to kind of something we talked about before we started recording, is how you decided to become more interesting. Like, because like the pink thing wasn't always a thing. Like, literally, so if you've never met Jessica, please follow her online. She'll be linked below in the show notes. But like, she's pink everything. Like, she's pink hair, she's pink clothes, pink shoes. I think that has almost become a calling card for you, you might say. It's become part of your brand. But that wasn't always the case. So like, how did that transition happen, and how did you become comfortable becoming so you? Because obviously, like in corporate America and pharmaceutical sales, like you're kind of like put in a box, right? Like you're told how to act, how to look, how to talk. So you kind of had to like get yourself out of that. How did you go through that process?
So I think what's so special about you and I is that we have a relationship outside of online, right? And so we are once a month, we're in the same room together, right? We're having in-person conversations. And you recognize that I'm the same person online as I am offline. Mm-hmm. So that has always been very important to me, because I think where some people really mess up when they try to build their business online or get referrals or whatever, they become something fake online. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but they feel like they have to become something or create something that they're not. They feel like they have to create some brand that is outside of them. So I can't pinpoint exactly. The whole pink thing has taken on a life of its own. Like, it absolutely has. And I can't necessarily pinpoint it, but I'm here for it and I love it and I'm leaning into it. So what happened how I get the referrals that I do, everything starts online for me, right? All the relationships start online through Facebook. I'm still trying to figure out Instagram. I'll tell you what, I'll create another course when I know how to do that, but I don't know how to do it yet. So I start on Facebook. So, let's go back 6 years ago, right? So I had like 150 friends on Facebook. I had, most of them were college friends, or what. My mom was on there for a little bit. That never works out well. Just FYI, just don't do that. Just don't be friends with your parents on Facebook. Okay. All right. So, okay, look, here's where I'm at, right? I live in Kansas City. I'm on the Kansas side. I live in the middle of the United States. At this time, I would have been married like 12 years. Been married for 12 years. I got 2 sons. I got 2 male dogs. I sell insurance. I looked at myself and I'm like, you are boring.
That's about as bland as you can be.
Jeez, so bland. And I'm real good about having the honest conversations with myself. I'm like, okay, well, what do we know? We know that people come to the socials to be entertained. They come to the socials to detract from what they're getting in their life, right? So social media, Facebook was the original reality show, right? People go there. So I'm like, all right, if I'm going to get more friends and I'm going to grow my business, girl, you got to figure out something to talk about, because if you're just talking about business, you might have something super interesting and super amazing that you sell. Insurance is not, so I didn't have that. But people will tune you out super fast if all you ever do is talk about business. So I was like, all right, I've got to become more interesting. Got to become more interesting. And so I would read about things, and my kids get it, my husband gets it, and I would say, all right, so I read about this thing online, so we're going to go here, and hey, I read about this place downtown that has the best grilled cheese in Kansas City. We're going to go, we're going to eat it, and we're going to talk about it. I need something to talk about on Facebook, right? Or, hey, we're going to go here because I heard about this zip line park, and we're going to do this, and I've heard it's the best thing ever, and we're going to go do that so we can be interesting. Well, when you start telling your kids, hey, I'm working on being more interesting because I need more things to talk about on social media, my people jumped in. My son's like, hey, Mom, I read about this thing online. It's black ink squid pasta. I found some on Amazon. Can we get it and we'll cook it and we'll eat it and we'll talk about it on Facebook? I'm like, okay, cool. And then my husband's like, hey, there's this restaurant opening, blah, blah, blah. I heard about it on sports radio, whatever. Heard about it on sports radio. We should go. We'll have a date night and we'll go. And then you can talk about it on social media. And it just created this atmosphere of, I'm spending more time with my husband, so I'm a better wife. My kids are like, what adventures can we do? Because they're just trying to help mom and they're living their best life, right? And we're traveling and I'm learning things and I'm having these experiences and I'm becoming better at conversation. So then people that I connect with outside of my family, they're like, hey, I know that you're into adventure, come and do this with me. Or I heard about this, you might be interested in this. So when I go out and run these races with my friends, or I go out and try these new restaurant for girls nights, oh, and FYI, take a couple of people with me to share the experience, take some of my girls with me, and I come home, or when I go to our Apex Executives meetup and I learn something and I come home and I tell my husband about it, that makes me a better wife. Because we were in a spot where we've got kids, we've got work, we own a business together. What else are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
We came up with other things to talk about, right? And I'm reading books and I'm saying, so I decided that I was going to start running, right? I wanted to be a runner. So my litmus test for all of this is, if I see somebody and they are celebrating something, right? Like when you and Tiffany got your new cars, right? You were so happy about those. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the best thing ever. And I truly had joy in my heart for you, but I wasn't jealous, right? I didn't have a little bit of envy. Now, if I see somebody do something or get something and I'm like, that makes me so happy because it makes you happy. And then if there's this little tinge of, I wish I had that, it's like, boom, it's going on the list. It's going on the list because and it's not unhealthy. It's just I recognize I want to try that. I want to have that in my life. That's how I'm constantly monitoring what should I bring in and what should I not bring in. So
that's a great idea, because like so many people I say, what do you want? I don't know. It's like the answer you always get, right?
Yeah.
And so basically your test is, if I see somebody else having something or doing something and it makes me feel a certain way, that means I want it too. And I don't not want them to have it, but I'm going to add it to my list now. I'm stealing that.
So if somebody goes to an awesome vacation, one of the things that we talked about for probably 2 years was going on a Disney cruise, because every time I saw someone go on a Disney cruise, I'm like, oh, good for them. But I want to do that with my kids. I want to have that in my life. So we went on this awesome Disney cruise a couple of years ago, like more than 2 years ago, because, all that. And it was an incredible time. But what happened with running was I said, okay, I want to run, right? I was looking for something that would both energize me. Okay, you'll get this. I was looking for something that would energize me, but also break me down a little,
Oh
right?
yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I needed something that would make me stronger. And the only way you get physically stronger is to break yourself down. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start running. So I started running a couple of years ago. I mean, the fact oh, wait a minute. So husband's having the same. He's having the same thing, right? He sees me doing it. He's super happy for me, but he wants it for himself. And I said, well, you can run half a block. And then tomorrow, run 3 steps further. And then the next day, run 3 steps further. It doesn't have to be, oh, I want to run like you, so I'm going to go out and run a 5K, or I'm going to go out and run a half marathon. Well, what happened from that is he started running, and before long, he was running further than I was.
Jeez.
So the dirty little secret that I have that I joke about is my kids and my husband. I'm the runner, right? I'm using little air quotes. I'm the runner in the family. And my husband and my kids run further and run faster than I do. And that's because I decided I was going to bring a new hobby in, and it has this ripple effect. And I get messages all the time from other ladies and other moms, and they're like, you know what? I saw you doing it, so I can do it. Or so brisket is my nemesis. It's this real funny thing where I can write a #1 best-selling book, but I sure as hell cannot cook a brisket. So it's become this joke on Facebook, right? Like, I'm so good at so many things, but damn brisket just trips me up. So people will send me recipes like, hey, try this recipe or try that. I'm like, I'm on it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. So the pink, though, everybody needs to be known for something. I'm not a branding expert, not at all, right? I don't have a degree. I'm not expert. I don't play one online, marketing degree, but you absolutely can control the conversation. And so I like pink, and I recognized at some point that I'm recognizing it, right? If you want to be known for something, just start talking about it. So I started making fun of myself, like, oh, hey, all the pinks match no matter what shade, right? Or, oh, hey, this isn't too much pink, right? And so the more I talked about it, the more people associated me with it. I could have easily done the same with the color yellow. I could have done the same with zebra print. I could have done the same with whatever. The good news is that, it has to be something you like, of course, but be known for something that's fun. Because
I built an entire brand around the word win.
I know, I love it.
And I think what I did the same thing you did. I just talked about it every day for 3 years.
Yeah.
Because people have asked me, like, Mike, what's changed? Your brand is like blown up. I'm like, nothing's changed. People just started paying attention.
Well, you're a 3-year overnight success.
I mean, barely even started.
I heard Garth Brooks say many years ago, it's stuck with me. He said, yep, I'm a 10-year overnight success. I've been playing small country bars for almost 10 years. Nobody notices. Now I'm a big success. People think I'm an overnight success, and I've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah. But I think the bottom line is you can turn anything you want into your brand if you're willing to be consistent with it long enough.
Absolutely. And because it's the whole 80-20, right? I only talk about business maybe 20% of the time. To be honest, I've said to myself, you could do a better job at talking about business. But if I'm getting over 500 referrals a year, I think I'm probably doing okay, right? So gotta give myself some grace there and keep with the facts. But I talk about my boys, I talk about being a bleacher mom, I talk about Boston Terriers, I talk about pink, I talk about running, I talk about adventure. And because I talk about those things, people associate them with me. And you never know how someone is going. If you're not connected, you're not getting referrals. If people don't feel connected with you, they are not sending you referrals. So there are people who will connect with me because I have because I'm a bleacher mom, right? Or because I have little dogs, or because I have Boston Terriers, or because I'm a train wreck in the kitchen, or whatever. The more that I talk about, the more people feel connected to me. And then it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, Jessica has this system where she teaches people how to get referrals, because they're not thinking of me business-wise first. They're thinking of other things, and then it's, oh yeah, she also does this. So in December, Dick's Sporting Goods came out with their Christmas catalog, whatever, and it's a Christmas tree with all this stuff under it. And there was a pair of pink running shoes on the cover of the magazine. I probably got 8 or 9 different text messages. Hey, did you see the cover? Did you see the cover? Because people are thinking about me for other things that are not associated with work, right? So how often do people think about insurance? Never. Maybe once or twice a year when their insurance renews. So if I'm waiting for them to only think of me when they're thinking of insurance, that's a problem. That's not going to work. And my life has just become so much better because I made the decision I'm going to be interesting. And then I executed on the decision.
Well, I mean, not only did you decide to be interesting, but I think you also found interesting in your routine and started documenting it. Like being a bleacher mom, you found a way to make that interesting. Having the dogs, you found a way to make that interesting. You know, you went from, wife, mother, pharmaceutical sales rep, and you basically just decided as a team, we'll say, as a family, that we are going to make our activity interesting by documenting it a certain way. Because I've said this for years. Don't go create content, document what you do already. And if you don't want to document what you're doing, change what you're doing. Right?
Go do something fun. Yes.
It's just that's it, right? So, but you found a way to make being a bleacher mom interesting. You found a way to making pink interesting. You found a way to be a mom, making that interesting. Dog mom, interesting. So I think so many people are like, well, I don't know what to post. Just document what you're doing already. And people who are of similar interest, of similar activities, of similar routines they'll know, like, and trust you because they can relate to you very specifically.
So there are people that are going to say, how do I become more interesting? Jessica, I can't do that. I don't know how to be more interesting. What do interesting people do? And then do that. So I don't care if you're into, listen, I'm not into soccer, but it's great if you are. I can have a conversation all day long about dogs, but if you want to talk about cats, I don't know. I'm not really a cat person. I don't care if you're into quilting, if you're into knitting, if you're into cross stitching. If you love that, the energy will exude from you when you talk about it. Like, I don't get cats, right? But we had cats growing up. It's fine. But if people are talking about their cat, maybe I don't necessarily love cats, but if this beautiful energy is exuding from them when they're talking about it, their energy is going to make me happy. I know nothing about soccer. I know a little bit about football because my boys played tackle football for 4 years. But before that, I didn't know anything about football. But if you would talk to me about football and you're all jazzed up because you absolutely love it, then it doesn't have to be my thing. Whatever your thing is that makes you happy, talk about it. So the good news is, as you lean into who you are, as you make the decision to become more interesting, as you become more comfortable with yourself and expressing it, then your people will be attracted to you, and the people that are not your people will be they'll turn away from you, right? They will move away from you. I can't think of what the word I'm looking for. You'll attract them or you'll repel them. That's what I'm looking for. You'll attract your people and you'll repel the other people. There are plenty of people that are, oh my gosh, she is just too much with her pink. I just can't with her. Okay, that's fine, right? And when I was in the insurance, in our insurance company every day, I know there were people that'd be like, okay, I just can't take her seriously. So I gotta unfollow her. I can't work with her. That's no problem, because what happens is that gives more space for your people, for the people who will help support you and who want to send you referrals and all that. You're going to be too much for some people, and that's okay.
Well, if you try to be for everybody, you're for nobody. If you're on the fence, you're not in anybody's yard. There's a number of different ways to say it, right?
I like that. I hadn't heard that one.
If
you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody.
I might have just made that one up. If you're on the fence, you're not in anybody's yard. I might have just made that one up.
I like that.
We can use it. We can use it.
Wait, let me copyright.
But like, you know, I think part of it is people like having self-awareness around the fact that like who they are is okay. You know, I mean, I think so many people struggle with that negative self-talk, negative self-image, the general, what do I have to offer? You know, they devalue everything that's great about themselves. So they literally don't want to share it because they don't think it's worth anything. And I think that's like really where most people need to start, because everybody who's in business, you are your biggest competitive advantage. And if you can just accept that, you will win at a much faster rate, because then you can just go be yourself.
Win rate. Did you get that? Easter egg.
Nice. Appreciate that. Easter egg. That was good.
Go ahead.
And so ultimately you go be yourself, you go communicate, you go be and kind of highlight and showcase what makes you you. And then people who relate to you want to do business with you. It's that simple. Like the equation is literally that simple, but I think it starts with, and like you did, was like, I'm comfortable becoming more interesting, whatever that looks like, we're going to do it. And then you figured out what your brand was going to be through the process. You didn't like, that's the brand I want, let me go get it. You were like, I need to get more interesting. And then things kind of fell into place. It wasn't like manufactured per se.
I have more fun talking about my failures at trying to be interesting than anything. So, and here, this is something that has just, I've become aware of recently, is we've created a culture in our house that makes failing okay. Now, I'm not talking about school wise, right? Like we're high achievers in school. We don't accept anything else. But if you try something and you fail at it, or you go on an adventure and it turns out to be the worst adventure in the world, or like me, you're trying to make a brisket and you just can't do it, it is more fun sometimes to talk about that. So we were on, like with our Disney cruise, one day we got to go and do this dolphin experience, right? Hang out with these dolphins. It was a good time. We had the best time. My boys loved it. Well, the next day we got to feed stingrays. That was not the best thing ever. One of my kids got bit and he freaked out, and the stingray came behind him and touched him on the leg, and he started screaming and ran from the water. And I was that mom chasing after the screaming kid because he was bleeding and all that, right? And then once we got them all calmed down, it was like, hey, not every adventure is going to be the best adventure. Like, as incredible as yesterday was, today is not a good adventure. That's okay, because we still have adventures. Like when I try to cook a new recipe and I burn it or it's messed up and we have to order pizza, that's okay, because that's going to happen. So without even realizing it, we created this culture in our household of, it's okay to try something and not be good at it. It's okay to try to do something or be something. And if it doesn't fit or you're not good at it, that's okay. If you want to be good at it, you got to keep trying, right? But if not, that's okay, because it is just as fun to talk about things that you screwed up.
Well, and I think most people can relate to failures way easier than they can relate to successes, because everybody fails on a regular basis, right? So we tell a story of failure, more people can relate to that than like the person who had it easy and wanted everything.
You're great at everything, huh?
No, I talk about
what was the last thing you failed at?
Say again?
What was the last thing you filled out?
Oh my God. I mean,
All the time?
every time I try to do an apparel launch, nobody fucking buys anything.
Yeah.
It's trying to find that commercial property. The first one fell through because I didn't have enough. I didn't like the lease contract I had didn't have the verbiage I needed in it that I didn't realize I needed in it.
And it's not even, sometimes it's not even your
It's just
fault.
like a hiccup.
Yeah. It just doesn't work out. But you talk about it. It's not like, oh yeah, I found this perfect space and we signed the perfect lease and we moved right in and everything was perfect. The journey, people are so into the journey, your journey. They don't want you to be perfect. Nobody wants you to be perfect.
No, it makes you too fake because no one's perfect.
How much, every time you fail, like every time you try to launch a clothing line and it doesn't work out, I'm guessing you learn something.
Oh yeah, every time.
Yep.
Every time.
Yep.
And a lot of times, like, things happen for a reason. Like that one commercial property fell through because this new one's way better.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So like a lot of things happen for a reason.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
I wrote a whole, yeah.
You get more referrals by not asking, by being yourself and documenting it and putting the story out there on a regular basis. Is there any other like details to that process that we have not talked about yet?
Okay, so insurance was my product, right? Auto and home insurance. I learned more about other people's businesses than I learned about my business. So if I was working with realtors, if I was working with lenders, if I was working with financial advisors, if I was working with accountants, I made it my job, well, hobby, right? Because I got lots of hobbies. I made it a hobby to learn how can financial advisors grow their business? How can mortgage companies grow their business? How can realtors grow their business? I studied how to grow businesses and then I taught other people how to do it. So I almost became like a friend / consultant, helping them grow their business, right? It's the whole, you help other people get what they want and you will get what you want. I became more ingrained in figuring out how to help other people grow their businesses. And then the referrals to me were basically just a byproduct. I would teach classes. I would teach classes for realtors and lenders, like how to use social media to get more referrals. And I wasn't asking for those referrals. I was just saying, hey, let me help you grow your business. And then as a byproduct, I was growing my business. And we can talk about that all day long.
No, I think people get the gist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So figure out how can you help other people grow their business and get what they want. And then as long as you're not screwing up your own business, right? Like if our customer service was terrible or we didn't have any good products, right? Nobody would be referring us for too long. But it has to be more about other people than it is about yourself. That's like the whole social media, 80-20, 80% to entertain, to engage, to talk about other people, and then 20% about your business. It has to be more about other people than it is about you.
I love it. Jessica, what an awesome story. And I'm so glad that you decided to break out of your shell and become interesting, or I would have never met you.
Yeah. Funny. If I would not be on the stages that I'm on. I wouldn't be on. And listen, let's be real. I'm a little goofy. All right. Let's just put it out there. I got no problem with it because I'm a good time and people want to hang out with me. I'm a little goofy sometimes, but if I didn't lean into my weird sense of humor or the fact that I think all the pinks match no matter what shade, if I didn't lean into that, I wouldn't be on stages. I wouldn't be on podcasts. People want to talk to interesting people. People want to be around interesting people. Even if you're not like me, people like it, like you and I. Okay, so I got my hair pulled back. For those of you who can't see, I got pink fingernails, a pink fuzzy sweater on, this flamingo thing, pink thing behind me. Mike has a black baseball cap, a black t-shirt. Let me see what color your fingernails. Oh, his fingernails are black too, if you can't see. We do both have tattoos, but I got like one and you got them all over. You have this low, serious voice, this tone about like you've got this permanent scowl almost. And I'm like a Care Bear, sunshine and rainbows. We're opposites. And yet we have some of the best conversations and we just connect because even if you're opposite of someone, the fact that you're interesting, like I love to talk to Mike about all the stuff that he does because he is interesting and he loves to talk to me because I'm interesting. You can be your own interesting. Don't try to, people say, I want to be just like you when I grow up. No, you don't, because I'm taken. You can't be like me, right? You be your own brand of interesting and people will absolutely love it. Even people who are not like you. You don't think this is a little too much for my husband sometimes? It is. It's fine. He still loves me.
Well, Jessica, there are people listening who are interested in learning more about you and your interestingness. Where's the best place to connect with you and follow you?
So I'm all over the socials. Jessica Stroud on Facebook. You can't miss me. I'm the one wearing the pink sweater in the picture. Or if I change the picture between now and then, I'll be wearing something pink. I promise. Yeah. And then on Instagram, I'm Jessica Stroud _ Lady CEO.
Perfect. And what was the name of your book again?
The Lady CEO.
Highly recommended. Tiffany read it. Loved it.
Mm-hmm. It's the one with the pink cover.
Of course it is. Well, Jessica, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, and I think a lot of people will be able to take action from that. So
thank you.
I appreciate you being a studette. I appreciate you being on my board. I appreciate everything that you do to be you and give other people permission to be themselves as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.